Yeah, that's what
Jamal Murray's health is going to be one of the key factors in this. Like, I mean, you mentioned, like, we're going to be talking about it quite a bit, and I think that's fair because, look, we saw what he did against the Lakers, but you also know that anything involving a calf, it could be a game-by-game, day-by-day basis.
He almost didn't play in Game 6.
Which is crazy to
or
think.
Or 5. Game 5.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy to think with what he was able to do and what he did to the Lakers. And you're like, we're watching him out there warming up. Remember with the ice on his calf? I'm like, oh, yeah, he looks good. And he did. But, I mean, it can vary game by game. But it can also vary. Like, Anthony Edwards had an up and down first round where he'll go for 30-plus and he'll go for 14. So, like, they're going to need consistency, Minnesota is, from Anthony Edwards game after game after game because he is their bucket getter. He is their put the ball in his hands, go get us points. You do that. Rudy Gobert has his role. Make life hell for Nikola Jokic. Cat, stretch the floor. You're in a good spot. You're not a 5, you're a 4. You're in a great place here. Jaden McDaniels, we know, go out, lock down Jamal Murray. Anybody else you have to switch, defend any position. All of that's there. But for Anthony Edwards, it's score first. It's go be our bucket getter. And if he can't do that consistently, that's the difference between Minnesota making this a series and Minnesota losing this in like 5 games.
I kind of feel like if I'm Chris Finch, I might play around playing a little zone and having just like maybe that sort of box and one kind of a vibe, have someone just maybe Jaden McDaniels trying to lock down Jamal Murray, making his life hell,
like
and then having everyone roam around Jokic to try to keep him contained. I think that's like an interesting strategy because I'm thinking about this matchup and who's going to guard who, and I think about like that Karl Anthony Towns, Rudy Gobert duo, and if there's a weakness, it's the fact that Karl Anthony Towns could get into some foul trouble going up against Jokic, which we've seen before.
Yeah.
They're going to try to probably blitz him and double team him, and that's kind of where I think the zone could collapse. And maybe if Jokic has the ball on the perimeter, then you put that Jaden McDaniels on him.
Or they just blitz the hell out of Jamal Murray and don't give up a bunch of open looks, and then they just say, Jokic, hey, we'll
allow you to kill.
We'll give you 28 to 30 points, but we're going to take away the double-digit assists.
Yep.
You know what I mean? We're not going to allow Jamal Murray to kill us, especially because he's not playing 100% right now. That's probably what they do, and that's why I think Minnesota has a shot. In the minus 165 was over 5.5 games, I found that. I kind of like that, too, but I'd rather just take Denver plus 1.5 since it's minus 125, the cheaper price, right?
You mean Minnesota plus 1.5?
Yeah, that's what I meant. So, but yeah, I just feel like, and they proved that if Ant does have a game where he's like 2 of 14 from the floor, he struggles from the floor, they could still win because, like you said, like somebody else could go off. They match up well defensively.
Match up really well. That's a really even matchup.
I just can't bet against Jokic. You know what I mean? Like in the series, but I do think it goes 6 or 7.
I wonder who in Minnesota guards Aaron Gordon. That's just a terrible. It's just a tough matchup.
And he can guard anybody on the other side.
He can guard anybody. I feel like Karl Anthony Towns could get into foul trouble on him. So that's gonna be the fascinating matchup right there. This might be a good game, a good series for Aaron Gordon.
So, have you been as frustrated as it feels like everybody else when it comes to these NBA playoffs and trying to bet on them? Because it's like, I feel like the angles we've tried to take have been, let's look at more role players because the star players have had really, really sharp numbers. But then the risk there is that these role players, after 2 great games, just kind of fall off the map and do nothing, like Deuce McBride last night, who's been great, and then doesn't do anything last night. I took the over on his points. Like, how have you attacked these NBA playoffs?
I mean, you're absolutely right about targeting role player, like the thought process. Target the role players unless you feel like there's some big angle. And after getting burned through the first couple games, I changed my philosophy a little bit and decided to essentially just play alts, but put less stake into it. So that's worked out a few times for me, at least enough to be able to like cover my losses so far. So like at least on the playoffs, I feel like I'm break even with some decent futures to look at. And then also, something that I like to look at is these lead the series in category X, whether it's points, rebounds, assists, threes, as a way to maybe try and find some value. One that I did before this game, the Cavs Magic game, was Donovan Mitchell was still 17-1 to lead the series in threes. And I understand he's been horrific shooting, but he just gets so much volume where it's basically taking a shot on, will the first 1 or 2 go in, to where then, especially if the Cavs are behind, he just starts to chuck. And while he was 4 behind Garland coming into the game, you know, those guys haven't made any. It's just felt like it was a very soft market, something to be able to play into. And it's still wide open, especially if we get a game 7, but just trying to find some value that way as opposed to like a game-to-game prop.
This is a team that we were pretty low on last year, we didn't really know what they were going to be like with a rookie quarterback, and all of a sudden, this quarterback sparked a lot of excitement. And I don't even mean C.J. Stroud and the Houston Texans. I mean Anthony Richardson and the Indianapolis Colts.
Good bet.
So if I like the Colts to make some noise and like them to win the division and not the Houston Texans, maybe the Texans have a little bit of a step back. Maybe, Stephon Diggs doesn't integrate as well. Maybe Tank Dell doesn't really have that burst at coming back from his injury. Maybe that defense regresses. I don't think it will, but if I like the Colts to really be a monster offensively and Anthony Richardson to take another leap, which I think he's maybe one of the most electric quarterbacks in the league right now, then I have to take Shane Steichen plus 1,600.
I like it. I like that one a lot. I bet Shane Steichen. I was like, you know what? I like this more than the Colts winning the division.
Same.
And if they don't win the division, but they win double-digit games or 9 games, whatever, 9 games probably doesn't get you in the playoffs in the AFC, then this is probably the way to go. And it's 16-1, down to 14-1 at BetMGM. I like that bet a lot. I like that.
I'm going to go with another former Eagles assistant that I think has a chance.
Oh, yeah, this is a good one, too.
When you've got yourself a quarterback that's actually going to be healthy this year in Kyler Murray, and you get Marvin Harrison Jr. in the draft, this is at least a team that would be on the rise out there in Arizona. I'm going to take Jonathan Gannon at 22-1 to win Coach of the Year. Because Jim Harbaugh's the favorite, but I just don't know if the Chargers are going to have that much improvement.
No.
To where people are really going to want to give him those votes. Also, you're going to look and say, well, half the team was out last year. They were hurt. They shut it down, so they weren't as bad as their record said. So you're not going to go from that to let's say 9 or 10 wins even, and people, I just think there could be other improvements in other organizations. The expectations are going to be much higher on Jim Harbaugh, so that's kind of why I just ruled that out. But Jonathan Gannon's got a real chance there in Arizona. Listen, I understand that Kyler Murray can be a roller coaster, but we've also watched the Cardinals get off to 6-0 starts, 7-5 starts, 5-1 starts.
Yeah.
The problem was Cliff Kingsbury couldn't make adjustments, and he's now the offensive coordinator in Washington. Can't wait for that. But the offense would look great halfway through the season. Teams would get stuff on film, and he wouldn't adjust and do anything new, and they'd go on these massive landslides at the end of the year. So you have a lot of talent there that can help get you to those starts. And now the question is, can somebody like Jonathan Gannon keep them there? So I'll take him at 22-1.
That's a really good bet. I bet that one as well. So
there you go.
I like that. 22-1, great price as well. All right, so you guys took 2 good ones. I'm going to, it's not going to be a juicy price, but it's still a decent price. 14-1 right now over at BetMGM. Shop around, though, of course. And after watching Green Bay, Minnesota, Detroit win the division the last decade, it's time to ease up a little bit, and it's time to get loose with the floose. And I'm talking about Matt Eberflus.
Oh, no, I thought you were going Robert Saleh.
14-1.
I thought you were going Robert Saleh.
I almost took the floose as well, but I thought
with the floose.
I honestly
thought
if I took Shane, if I tried to wait for Shane Steichen, you would already snag him.
Yep.
Well, I had Shane Steichen ready to go.
Okay, so
you stole it from me again. So I was already ready for Shane Steichen.
So I was like, maybe Flus will be there because Ryan hates Chicago, so maybe he'll be there, but he's not.